This is pretty ridiculous. We just hit 500,000 subscribers. I don't even believe it myself. When we started this thing, I didn't even think that would be possible. But it is possible. It was possible thanks to you coming and hanging out with us while we make all of these ridiculous things. And you know what? This has got me feeling kind of nostalgic. Maybe that's because WoW Classic is coming out. Brittany and I played World of Warcraft for about 5 years, from like vanilla to Lich King, I think. It was one of the best games ever, and I want to make something from it. Of course, I've already started. I want to make the Doomhammer. This is one of my favorite weapon designs from World of Warcraft. I'm sure you've got your own favorite weapon or prop from WoW. In fact, if you do, I want to hear about it down in the comments. But I'm making the Doomhammer. In fact, I made a template for you, so I'm going to use this. And if you want to follow along, there's a link below where you can download it for free. And just like my Hand of Ragnaros that I made a couple of years ago, I'm going to make most of this out of EVA foam, which is just perfect because this video is sponsored by Yaya Han's EVA foam, now available at Joann stores and on their website at joann.com. I just checked and the store near us has them in stock, so I'm going to go pick some up right now. Got my foam, and of course, I've got a coupon. Yeah. I love that fresh foam smell. It's time to get to work. We've got several different thicknesses of foam here. We've got our pattern, we're ready to go. And I'm excited because this is a pretty good beginner project if you're looking for a challenge. Most of the shapes are very geometric, not too difficult to figure out, but there are a lot of them. So if you're looking for a challenge, download the pattern, go get some foam, and try it out for yourself. And I'm gonna start cutting out my foam. Ta-da! I'm starting with the 4 panels that'll make up the box on the head of the hammer, and I'll cut them all out of a 10mm foam. It's about just under 7 3/4. Just make my measurements on here. I've got my knife. It's nice and sharp, and I'll keep it extended pretty far so I can do a really shallow cut. I also want to make sure the cut is perpendicular to the surface of the mat. I don't want it to wander at all, and then I can just make my cut. Oh, that was nice. I'll need 4 of these, and to attach them, I'm gonna need to go use the bandsaw. Yes, the bandsaw. Do not be intimidated by this machine. I get this guy for fairly cheap. You can find them used for less than $100 for a little fella. They're fantastic. This thing is gonna upgrade your foam smithing game like you will not believe. I have mine set up, tilted at 45 degrees so I can cut a bevel off of it, and I have a fence on there to hold it in place while I run it through. These are all the sides of my box. I made them all the same size. It will be the same height as it is wide, and I'm okay with that. But before I glue them all together, I marked out a spot for the handle. I'm gonna be using PVC pipe for the handle, and I took a chunk of it and sharpened it so I can cut a hole in this flat piece of foam now before I glue it together. I can look down the tube and center it there. This is about 1¼ inch tube here. That's the outer diameter. I should at least be able to get it started, if not cut all the way through. And what's more, this is super snug. So when I install this, eventually it'll be nice and tight. And plus, you get a little circle. I'm gonna save this for later. That's going in my pocket. This is one of the side pieces, and then the top and bottom are the ones with holes in them, and the handle will go through those. To glue these together, I'm going to use a contact cement, and I just have to brush it on either of the beveled faces. Now that my glue is dry on all the parts, I can stick them together and get the edges all nice and lined up, just like that, and they'll stick, and then I can just flip it over and close it. And that makes a nice mitered corner right there for our hammer. Yep. There we go. That's a nice looking box. I can even install the PVC pipe temporarily. Yeah, I like it. Nice and lightweight, and it seems to be a pretty good size. Things are looking appropriate. The edges of this box, however, these edges here need to be beveled. And you know what that means? I cut a couple of pieces like this, and they're gonna go over the holes I've already made in there to help give the handle a little more support. Since our bevel's removed quite a bit of material in the corner here, I'm also gonna reinforce this seam with some hot glue. I'm doing the wolf emblem next, so I printed out another copy of those parts. I cut them out, and we'll cut those out of 5mm foam. I'm making these cuts with an X-Acto knife. For smaller pieces, this smaller blade seems to have a bit more control, and it's a lot easier to get the detail I need than with that bigger blade. That's why I keep a variety of knives and sizes on hand at all times. Ta-da. The smaller blade is especially handy for little curves like this. And when I get to the end of my cut, I can kind of saw my way through it into that corner. And there we go. Very nice clean cut. All my little foam pieces are cut out, and now I want to round over the edges on these corner parts and add some bevels to the rest of it. I also need to do some sculpting on the wolf head. I'm going to do all of that with the rotary tool, starting with just a 220 grit drum for all my roundovers. To line up where on the face my emblem is going to go, I've got the rest of the pattern here, and I'm just getting it as centered as I think I can. Then I'm going to poke through the pattern into the foam with an awl or a pen, and that'll give me the corners, and I can then trace where those go, and that'll be where I put all those parts I just cut out. To attach all these little parts, instead of using contact cement, I'm just going to use super glue. It's much quicker than trying to brush and wait for that kind of glue, and it's easy to apply in small areas with a pointy tip like that. There we go. Just gotta glue the rest of those parts down. And that looks good. There we go. I'll tell you what, too, that looks pretty fantastic. Now I just have to do the other side. Oh, wait a minute, I already did. Thanks, Pass Bill. These are more 10mm foam cut to 1.5 inches wide, and they are going to be these parts that wrap around our hammer. I will need to cut these though, so that they can match the bevels that we have all the way around it. Here's the plan. I'm gonna be making cuts at 22.5 degrees because it's half of 45. And those parts will connect on the corners down here, just like that. And it's going to match the cuts that we already put on there. The length of these pieces, I'm gonna make sure that the bottom edge matches the edge right there. And on the longer pieces, whoops, they're beveled on both ends. This bottom part here, that length will match the edge right there. So now that I have my plan, I can head on over to the bandsaw and cut all these pieces out. These bands are all cut out, and before I glue them together, I want to do these parts, these sort of raised rivets or whatever. So I cut out that part there for the longer sections, and I can use this to figure out where those are gonna go. And I really like using a white marker on this darker foam. You could use a chalk pen or pencil as well. Makes it nice and easy to see. And then to cut these out, I do want them to be a little bit recessed. I've got a sharpened metal tube that's about the right size. And I can just press that through and cut it out. We can just poke that out. And this piece, I'm not gonna throw it away. I'm actually gonna bevel that and bevel the inside of that, and then this will get installed back in there, but I'll leave it protruded since these are supposed to be raised up bits. This is the look that I'm going for. You can see I have a round over on that circle part, but also I rounded over the edge going into the hole, so there's a lip in there. Without that, it's all much too square. We want this softer look. Here's the plan. I've got a piece there, and I've got these things that go in there, and then I want them to stick out a little bit. It's okay if they're uneven, and then I'm just gonna tack them in from behind with a little bit of hot glue. There we go, looking good. I put contact cement both on these pieces and on the hammer, and it seems to be dry now. So I'm gonna try and stick all of these parts together. Like that. And then a little corner piece, hopefully will go in like that. So far, so good. Coming around. Last piece of the puzzle, and I can bend the foam a little bit so that I have a little more room so that nothing collides until it's ready to get stuck together. Just like that. I'll just go around the edge and press it together. And I'll tell you what, that turned out great. I love it. That's so fantastic. I want to round these edges over. I'll do that in a little bit. I do have to do the other side, but that's fantastic. Our hammerhead is looking awesome. There's some end caps to go on here. I'm gonna wait. I wanna do the handle, or build as much of the handle as I can first, so that I still have access to where this attaches on the inside. I wanna make sure that it's nice and glued in sturdy, and I can do that without anything covering this. So, let's make a handle. Starting with this PVC pipe, I already cut it to length and sanded it because we're gonna glue some foam to it. The handle's got some features on it, and I want to glue some foam for those features. But first, I want to mark where they all go. There's one there, there's this band that goes around there, and then a bit of a gap, another band. And then this part is tapered, and I'm going to cover the whole part in foam, and then sand most of that away to get that nice taper. So this piece of foam needs to go from there to there, and I'll need another one to go from there to there. I cut out a piece of 10mm thick foam, and this will get glued and wrapped around here. To get this to meet up all nicely, right there, this is about 5 3/4 of an inch long, but to get the end to meet nicely, I can cut a little bit of a taper into the end of it. So instead of a straight 90-degree cut, we'll just take a little bit more off. So I have that taper, and I've found that when it comes to gluing this together, with my contact cement, it's a lot easier for me to get those seams to line up. It'll make more sense when I have the glue on there. And now I can just tack it down to my pipe. The lines that I put on there helped me know where to brush the glue on. And also it's helping me make it, or keep it all aligned when I'm wrapping it up like this. I'm trying to get this edge down here, down into the deeper edge there where the foam meets the PVC pipe. I don't want any gaps. Now I just want to keep these edges as lined up as possible. And I do that by taking my time. This is all going to get sanded, so if it's not perfect, I'm not going to worry too much about it. But I do try and do a good job at least. There we go. That's pretty good. And then I can press the whole thing down to the pipe, and we have this additional feature that we can then go and sculpt. I glued up another piece of foam. It's the same width as this piece here, and it's also going to get wrapped around. It's just a bit longer to match the length of this portion of the handle down there. And I'm gonna do the same thing, just wrap it all the way around. I'm gonna taper most of this up to about here, so I can just kind of roll this and mark a line for that. And then we're gonna go over to another fantastic power tool to shave this down. The tool for this work is the Humble Belt Sander. I'm gonna use it to do some sculpting. You can get one of these for used really cheap. Keep an eye on Craigslist. They are fantastic. Mine also has a disc on it, which is awesome. Of course, this kicks up a ton of dust, so I have a dust mask, absolutely mandatory so you're not breathing it in, but I also have mine hooked up to a dust collector so that I'm not filling my shop with all this nasty dust. If you don't have one of those, a shop vac works just as well. I finished up this taper on here and it worked really well. The rest of this needs a big old scoop taken out of it to match the reference I've got here. And I could just do that all on the belt sander, but I'm gonna use the bandsaw to remove a bit more big chunks early so I don't have to turn all of it into dust. I've got the handle part to a nice shape there. Now I want to work on these parts that are going to get wrapped around it. And for that, I've got these wonderful foam dowels. But to do our wrapping, I'm going to need to cut this in half lengthwise. This should be more than enough for one wrap around there. And then I'm just going to carefully, with a very sharp knife, cut this down the middle. This part can now be wrapped around our piece. I'll cut it to length and glue it down just like I did everything else. Stick and wrap. Nice and level. I'm doing the same thing down here on the bottom part, but I've added an extra piece here to make the whole thing a little bit wider. There we go. This part that goes around the handle, I'm going to make from more of this 10mm foam. I'm going to cut a thin strip of it, but I'm going to try and cut the two bevels into it, just using a straight edge. I'm just kind of eyeballing the angles here and getting it a little bit close. That looks pretty all right. Tilt my blade a little bit more for this one. That's pretty good. It's good enough for me anyway. Now, just like before, I can glue this piece down and it wraps around all nice like, because foam is awesome. And stick. I don't know about you guys, but it's lunchtime and I could use a sandwich, a foam sandwich. I'm gonna work 90 degrees off from everything else and make some layers of foam to match the thickness that I need. So I'm gonna glue these two pieces together to make this part here. And then I'll glue these three parts to make that part right there. And I've used two 10mm pieces and a 5mm piece to get myself to the thickness I want. I do wanna punch a hole through them like that so that this will all slide over the end of my PVC pipe here. So I'm using my compass on the center to draw a quick circle. And that way I'll know where to punch a hole through there. But I can also use this compass to mark the diameter of these two pieces. I'm gonna sand them to get these bevels and everything, but I wanna cut them into circles once I've glued these all together so that I'm most of the way to the right shape. So this is the diameter I'll want eventually for that one. And then there's this bigger one here, just like this. Okay, I've got my circles plotted out. Now I'm just gonna glue everything together with more contact cement. This middle piece gets glue on both sides. There, I'll just... With our glue dry, we can put our sandwich together, and I like to drop it straight down on top of the other piece. I don't like to do one side and like fold it because it can curl that way. I'll just press it straight down, and then I push really hard to make sure that it is fully bonded. We can do the same thing with our 3-meat sandwich over here. Make sure that everything is going together all nice and square. That piece goes down, and then the top bun goes right on there. And same thing, I just press it straight down and then go around and make sure it's nice and stuck together. And now I think I'll go to the bandsaw to cut out my circles. Well, first, actually, I can cut out the middle part. Awesome. Now I'll go cut it out on the bandsaw. I'm back over at the belt sander, and I'm going to use the round roller here to put a radius all the way around here up to this white line that I've drawn. And again, this is going to kick up an awful lot of dust, so I'll turn on that dust collector. Got the rough shape, but I'm going to come in with the rotary tool and just do a little bit more refining. That's looking okay. I'm going to turn my focus to the other circle. Our pieces look pretty good. They're going to go on like that, and then this one goes this way. There we go. That looks awesome. And then for the end, I made a little cap, just more foam that I rounded over, but I want it to be a little more domed, and I'm going to use my foam anvil for that. A little heat. One of my favorite things about EVA foam is you can heat it up and form it by hand like this, and it will keep that shape. So I don't need a huge dome, but a little bit of a dish there is going to help us out. So our dish piece here will just get glued on that. To glue this, I'm going to get it ready on the tube there, and then I'm just going to use some hot glue all the way around. I don't really need a ton of it. And then I can just push that on. Look at that, piece of cake. And quickly take this, that's the right direction, and on we go. Like that. That's just fun to do. Okay, now I can glue this on. Wait, one more time. Okay, now I can glue this on with more hot glue. Make sure it's centered. Just eyeball it and just hold it there, and that seems like it's good. All right. The next thing I want to do are these little spikes here, and I was going to cut them out of some 5mm foam, but Britt had a great idea. She dug these out of the trash. These are little corners that we cut off earlier, and they're already sort of peaked at the top. So what I want to do is start by cutting an angle on this, basically on the bottom. It's a little tricky to do. Fortunately, I have lots of scraps to practice on. But that gives us this nice pointed part that I can clean up with my rotary tool. Now I'll cut this to length. I'm going to guess about 1 inch. And that should be able to go here and then bend right around there. And look at that. To attach these, I'm going with super glue. These little tiny fiddly bits are a lot easier to manage with a tiny super glue bottle. And then that can just get wrapped around like that. And that's a lot of squeeze out. There we go. That looks great. There's some recessed details going around this collar here. So I went around and just traced that with a pen, and now I'm gonna score it with a sharp knife, really, really sharp knife. And I just wanna score under the surface and trace that line. I'm only going about 1 millimeter or 2 deep, and I'll just trace it all the way around the collar. It's important that it's a very sharp knife. You don't want it to tear as it's trying to make its way through the foam. Now for the fun part. That never gets old. These are going to be the faux rivets that are going on my handle here, and they're made from these dowels. The foam for these dowels seems less dense than the sheets, and a sanding bit was a little aggressive. So I have this stone bit, and I'm going to use that to round this edge over like I did on these guys. Once I'm happy with the shape, I can just cut off a slice, and there we go. And then since these are so small, I am going with super glue to stick them on. And these ones line up with the spike things. I can use these same faux rivets up here on the collar. Just like, oh, fingers are stuck together, it's fine. Use a little accelerant to kick that off and hold it. And then, there we go, that only hurt a little bit. It's time to wrap the handle. I want to do like a faux leather thing. I've got some 2mm foam and I've cut it into these long strips. And the end where I'm going to start has been tapered. And that'll start at the bottom so I can wrap around it. I'll do all of this with contact cement, so I've got to brush a bunch on the handle and then a bunch on all of these strips. My glue all ready to go. All I have to do is lay this down and it'll stick, and I can just wind it right up. And when I get to the part I've already laid down, I can overlap it just a little bit. And then I just have to wind it up. Now this is a very simple faux leather grip. There are other ways you could weave this. I haven't looked up any of those. I'm going for simple on this one, but there are a lot of options here. What's great about this 2mm foam in this thickness is that it does behave an awful lot like leather. You can stretch it a tiny bit. It's really fantastic. I got to the end of this piece, but fortunately I put glue on the very edges of these so I can stick them together and keep this crazy train rolling. Getting up to the end there. I can trim a nice taper into that, kind of. There we go. Just got a little tail there, and that I can tuck around like that. And that, I think, is the last of the handle bits. The handle is looking really great. Time to finish the hammer head though. The caps that go on the end here, these big faces, that's what I'm making next. And I'm gonna make them out of more giant sheets of EVA foam. So I just cut out 4 each of the 10mm foam here, and these are all gonna get laminated together in a giant block that I'll then cut out. You could totally be a lot more efficient with this and use less foam. This is just the quickest way, and I'm pretty impatient. Let's start gluing. I made the end caps here for my hammer, just solid foam. Added a couple of raised details as well, and they're looking pretty great. I'm gonna glue them on, but first, I'm gonna glue in the handle. It is time. I wanna do that now so I still have access, so I can put some more hot glue in there. So I'll go in there, I'll get it all lined up, and then I'm gonna attach this with hot glue, and I'll put a bunch on there real quick, and then I'll mash it in and we should be all set. Only one shot, make sure I do it right. All right, it went better than I thought it would. I mean, it went exactly how I thought it would. To attach the face to the hammer here, I've marked out where I want to brush on contact cement, but if I wanted to use this to like hold stuff, like my wallet, I could put magnets around here to make this removable, but mine won't be, so I'm just going to brush on some contact cement. Here we go. This is a big step. Just want to make sure everything's lined up correctly. That looks right. There we go. Nice and stuck down. That looks awesome. It looks like it's on straight. Let's do the other one. One more touch before I close this up forever. Yay. Here we go. Let's stick it all together. Yes! I have the power! I mean, I lead the horde. I'm not He-Man, I'm Thrall! One of the last bit of details on our Doomhammer are the cracks around here. There's some around the wolf there, and there's some on the face of these plate thingies. So I'm gonna use a hot knife, and I'm just sort of testing it and dialing in the temperature on this guy with a scrap piece of foam here. And I think I'm doing pretty good, and so I can go over to my hammer. I just used a ballpoint pen to mark everywhere that I want to do all of the hot knife work so that I know exactly where to go with this burning hot tool. It's also worth noting you should wear a respirator and work in a well-ventilated area. I'm going to throw my respirator on in just a moment. I also have a fan blowing across my work so that it's taking those fumes away from my face. A lot of times when I'm doing a lot of this kind of work, I will just go right outside and make sure I'm not filling my workspace with nasty fumes. Our hammer is nearly done. There's just one more part to make this end cap right here, and I've already cut out all the foam for it. While I'm gluing these together, I want to thank our sponsor again. That's Yaya Han EVA foam for cosplay and armor accessories, available at Joann Fabrics and Craft stores or online at joann.com. In fact, you can head over there right now to see if your local store has the foam in stock yet. That's exactly what I did this morning. My favorite benefit is being able to go buy these high quality large sheets of foam on the day I needed it. I needed it today, and I was able to go buy it today and start working immediately. The hammer that we made was just sheets of foam this morning, and now it's nearly done, which I think is pretty amazing. And of course, I always make sure I use the Joann's app so that I can use a coupon and get a good deal on my foam. There's a bunch of different thicknesses. There's the 10mm foam, there's the 5mm foam, and of course, 2mm foam. I love them all so much, available in large sheets without any texture on either side, which is super handy. The foam dowels are amazing, of course. You saw how well we used those on this project. Those come in 10, 15, and 30mm diameters, and they're useful for a wide range of foam fabrication techniques. With the exception of this PVC pipe, this entire Doomhammer was made using Yaya Han EVA foam, and the results really do speak for themselves. You can head to your local Joann store and pick up your foam today, or head to joann.com and order a bunch for yourself. You will not be disappointed. This part here that I just finished will eventually go on the end of our pipe right there, but I'm gonna leave that off for now. I'm not gonna glue it yet. I'm gonna do my painting, or sealing, and then painting with this exposed so I can use that somehow to hold this up while I do all that work. And then I'll glue all this together in a little bit. Before I move on, I want to inventory how much foam I've used on this project. I got one sheet each of the 2, 5, and 10mm foam. I used all of one sheet of the 10mm, mostly because the Hammerhead is so big and I used many layers of it. So I used one sheet of the 10mm and I cut a little bit more off of that. So 2 sheets worked really well there. And then the 2 and 5mm sheets I got, I have lots left over. So most of this came from the 10mm sheet, and you can see how much of this I have left over potentially for other projects, or if I wanted to build more than one of these guys. I also want to find out how heavy this is, or hopefully how lightweight it is. So I've got my scale all set up and I put my hammer on it, and it's coming in at right around 1.3 pounds, which for a prop this big is practically nothing. It's also amazing if you're going to carry this around at a convention all day. Your arms won't get tired, and also it's nice and convention safe. Finally, I've got all of my scraps over here. These are all the offcuts and leftovers from my project. Got a foam dowel here. I've got some little circles I punched out. I keep a lot of this stuff because so much of this, like a piece like that, super useful. I'll use this again in a future project. Some of these smaller pieces will get thrown out, but I figured this will give you a reasonable expectation of how much foam I used and how much I had left over. For my sealing and painting, I've built a little stand, just a dowel with a piece of foam on it. That way I can place that in there and it'll hold it up, and then I can brush and paint all over it. For my little cap here, I can use another piece of the PVC pipe. Same thing. And for the ceiling, we're gonna go with Mod Podge. We're just gonna cover it in a bunch of PVA, but before I do that, I'm gonna heat seal the whole thing. I'll just go over it with a heat gun, and that'll give us a nice, consistent, smooth finish before we do our ceiling. Just gonna cover everything with our PVA glue here, and then I want to add a little bit of a texture to it. Everything on this looks kind of pebbly or stone-like, although I do believe it's supposed to be a metal of some kind, some sort of World of Warcraft metal, like thorium. Anyway, I'm gonna go over the whole thing and just stipple it with my brush to give it that little bit of texture. All the metal parts I stippled to add some texture, but on this faux leather part, I'm just brushing along with it to give it a little bit of a different texture. Time for primer. Today is a new day. Don't let the fact that I'm wearing the same shirt fool you. I let this dry overnight, and it's time to paint it. It's all primed and ready to go. I'm gonna start by putting a base coat of color on these parts. Anywhere that I want to be metallic, I'm gonna do a base coat of black. Anywhere that I want to be brown, like the wood or leather, base coat in brown. These are just normal acrylic paints, and I'm gonna thin them down a hair with some water so that I can make a nice dark wash that I can scrub over all of my metal parts. And I'm really just trying to get coverage here, providing a nice sort of base coat for the colors that are gonna go on top of it. And I'm especially making sure I get down in those crevices. I don't want any of that gray primer sneaking out. I'm working on the top of this right now because I can reach it, and then I will put it back on my stand to paint the rest of this thing. For the color on my metal bits, I'm gonna use these metallic acrylic paints here. I've got a couple of different shades, and I'm gonna start with the darkest one. This is a really dark metallic. And I'm not gonna cover everything. I'm just gonna get a little bit of paint loaded up here, and I'm gonna stipple this on everywhere that's supposed to look metallic. The idea is I'll do a couple layers like this with a couple of different shades of metallic paints and get some really nice contrast everywhere. The next layer is going to be sort of a medium tone, and I've got this silver color here, but I'm going to use the darker metallic to bring it down a little bit to more of a medium. That first dark layer metallic really added a lot to this, and I'm excited to add a little more. I'm going to be kind of selective where this goes, so I'm not going to hit everything, but I'm hoping I add just another sort of tone to all of this. Looks like little scratches and dents and dings. Here you can see the three tones I'm working with, our dark, medium, and finally the lightest. I'm gonna dry brush this, which means get rid of as much paint as possible. And then I'm just going to add scratches. This layer is all gonna be about the highlights and scratches. Less is more here. Don't overdo it. This part's meant to look like leather, so I'm trying to make it look like the highlights of this have been beat up and therefore are lighter. For the wood, I'm trying to draw individual grains, I guess, the grain of the wood. I just have more lighter acrylic paint, super watered down. It'll dry really, really light. I'm just trying to add a little bit of texture. It's coming out okay. This is definitely not my forte. The last color of paint is this kind of goldish bronze, and that's going on just this cap here, and all of the like faux rivet parts here. Brush it all on my hand, and then I think we can let it dry. That is all the color, and I'm really liking how it looks. I'm just gonna do one more pass of weathering, but before I do that, I've got some clear coat. Gonna go with a gloss on this. I want this to be a little shiny. I want the leather to be a little shiny too. So I'm just gonna spray it with a couple of coats of this to seal everything, make sure our weathering paints don't disrupt the paint we already have. Our clear coat is dried, and now I can finally cap off the top here. And there we go. Just like that. And that is all of the assembly. Boy, that gloss didn't mess around. It's super shiny. I could hit it with a matte if I wanted to take that back a little bit, but I'm gonna see how this plays out. I've got my weathering paints here, just a brown and a black. Gonna do a touch of weathering on this, and that should be the last step. Just got a little water and some black and brown paint, and I'm not doing anything fancy here. I'm just driving paint down into all the crevices, and then I'll use that paper towel there to clean most of it off, leaving a nice patina behind, some nice dirt and grime on all the low spots. In fact, I'm gonna get this a little wet so that we can really kind of wipe off the high spots. But basically we're just doing an acrylic wash here, nothing too fancy. And as it dries, the paint left behind, it looks like it's making this a little more matte, which I'm okay with. You can see how shiny this still is. While I'm finishing up, I'd love to thank our sponsor again, Yaya Han EVA foam for cosplay. Available at Joann fabrics and craft stores or at joann.com. I got mine at a local store and made this whole hammer with it, and it was awesome. So thanks again to Yaya's foam. And of course I need to thank the members of our Extra Credit Club. You guys have stuck with us through the years and helped us out in so many ways. If you want to join in on the fun, get access to some exclusive content, we got vlogs and build updates every single week. You can head on over to the link in the description and join the rest of the gang. Either over on Patreon or on YouTube, you can join super easy, and we really appreciate it. Final step will be one more pass with my cruddy old brush and a little bit of dry brushing to call out some of the shiny highlights again. The weathering paints muted them a touch, so I'm just bringing them back a little bit with the silver, and I can also go back in with the gold to touch up all these guys. Of course, before I finish, I would urge you to subscribe if you think that this is your jam. If you like these kind of videos, we make all kinds of them. And if you're gonna do that, go ahead and hit that bell so that when we have a new video coming out, you'll know right away. And I think that's gonna do it right there. The hammer is all done.
Oh, come on.
Is it done?
Recording. Is it ever gonna stop?
Do this quickly before that guy decides to back up again. Just go, just go. Will be the humble belt sander, and I'm gonna use it to do some sculpting. Come on. There it goes.